it's Liz Yuille from Old Staples Crafts. Thank you very much for joining me again today. I'm a UK-based independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And today is Top Tip Tuesday, because it's Tuesday, so it's top tip time. So, today I'm going to talk about heat embossing. I realised that I have been talking about overheating, about using embossing buddies, and all that sort of thing, and I thought I would actually go through some of the stages of heat embossing, some techniques, things that can go wrong, those sort of things. So I have pulled out a piece of basic black cardstock because this is probably the colour, black's technically the absence of a colour, but this is probably the colour that is going to show up when things go wrong best. That's almost English. I'm just going to bring in a rough piece of paper because I may well stamp off the edge. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about embossing buddy. So I'm deliberately trying to add fingerprints to my card. Of course, you know, when you need fingerprints, you're not going to be able to produce them, but hey. So let's give it a go. I've got a filigree stamp, that's the word I'm looking for, from Tasteful Textures, which is a new stamp set in the in the annual catalogue. Not autumn winter, I'm thinking about Christmas already, because for Stampin' Up! Demonstrators we are already thinking about Christmas. So actually I'm not going to ink that up. I'm not going to do that. I've had a thought. So I've tried to finger that end quite a lot. Let's see if I can... Oh, yeah! So that's what can happen if you put sticky fingers all over your cardstock. Let's now apply the embossing buddy to the other end and see what happens. And you can see where I applied embossing buddy and where I didn't. And it's very, very obvious. And once you get the heat gun on that, even on this side, that's going to show up. So let's wipe that away. And it's quite a lot to wipe away there. I hadn't realised I'd managed to get quite so many fingerprints all over this card, but there we go. So I am going to finger it. Ooh, I've got lots on the other side as well. Let's get rid of that. Not that this side really matters, but okay. So sweep that clean. Okay, so I have shown you that by not putting embossing buddy on, you pick up embossing powder. And obviously you can, sorry, I've got embossing powder everywhere now. You can then brush it off with a brush, but sometimes that's not that easy. So I've inked this up. I haven't applied, this is the end I didn't apply embossing buddy to. So let's stamp our image, which we can see nicely on the black card. And that's the problem. So I am going to heat emboss that in a moment, so we can do a comparison. Let's now apply embossing buddy over everything else. I'm going to deliberately avoid that end. Grab our ink again and our Versamark. You can see I keep my embossing buddy on my Versamark so that there is no excuse. I have no idea whether this is the same way up or not, and it doesn't actually matter. So I'll stamp it once and ink it up again and stamp it again. Grab my embossing powder again and let's dabble that. Missed a couple of spots. Now, silver on black is probably the single hardest colour to get right. The black seems to like taking embossing powder really easily, even if you have used the embossing buddy. And that was right on the edge, so I'm just going to brush that off. And again, this was right at the point where I didn't put Embossing Buddy. But hopefully you can see the difference, and I'm now going to make it very, very obvious. So, grabbing my heat tool rather, and my cheese board. Now, some people do heat from underneath, some people heat from on top. I'm an on top person. Vellum I might heat from underneath, only because it's very, very quick to emboss. So what I'm going to do is, starting at this end, I'm going to just heat this. Sorry about the noise. I love watching this. I know I say that every time, but I do. Then we'll go up to this one. Now, having something behind does help. Bamboo is great because it doesn't hang on to it doesn't spread the heat around too much. And then this one, I'm going to see if I can overheat. So we'll heat it, and then I'm going to just leave my heat tool to show you what happens if you overdo it. Okay, so finish with that noise. So hopefully if I bring it up, so this is the one that didn't have Embossing Buddy, and as I say, black is probably the single worst colour for wanting to grab hold of embossing powder. It loves it. So that is frankly worse than useless. This one is with Embossing Buddy and heating just so that it melts. Now, do bear in mind that this stamp is not a solid. It's got aging in it, so I wouldn't expect it to be perfect. This one, we've gone too far. So the shines come off and it actually feels rough. This one feels smooth, this one feels rough. And I'm hoping you can see the difference between this one and this one. So this one's nice and shiny. This one we've gone too far and it's gone into the paper. And then this one is just a disaster. So there you are. That is my tip for today. Use your Embossing Buddy. And as I say, I keep mine with my Versamark ink. My Versamark always sits on my craft desk. I know I'm in the fortunate position where I have a craft desk that is dedicated to crafting. Not everyone does, but you can keep your Versamark that way up in a drawer with your Embossing Buddy over the top. I used to hang this, which is why it's got this clip on. I don't know why I don't take the clip off. In fact, let's be rash. Let's take the clip off. So this is the only Embossing Buddy I've ever had, and I have been crafting since the beginning of time, and it's already, or it's still really full. It will eventually become empty, but they last forever. They are very inexpensive, but keep it with your Versamark so you remember to use it. It's made a huge difference to me to just do this. Then have a board, don't have a board, that's a personal choice, but don't overheat it, because this is what happens if you overheat it. And once it's overheated, there is nothing you can do to rectify it. And as I say, no Embossing Buddy, Embossing Buddy. Major difference. So thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope that was useful. And I will be back next Tuesday with another top tip. And I'll be back again tomorrow with another project. So thank you very much indeed for watching. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye!